biggest reason you're inconsistent with your distance control and putting is because you don't maintain proper delivery loft. You heard me right, delivery loft. I'm gonna teach you what it actually is, what you might be doing. More importantly, we're gonna talk about ways that you can fix it. The putter has loft on it, just like every golf club in the bag. And the loft that we deliver at impact has a huge impact on how the golf ball launches and how it rolls, just like your driver does, right? You've been fit for a driver. You want certain launch angles and certain spin rates so the ball goes a long way. So let's first of all talk about what is the most common thing that as an instructor that I see. I've got my foresight set up right here, and we're gonna be looking at two things. We're gonna look at what I'm just gonna call delivery loft, and then we're gonna look also at launch angle. So here we go, I'm set in there, and what I'm gonna try to do is hit a putt that looks like a lot of amateur golfers who struggle with distance control. So it's gonna look something like this. They're set up, they rock back, and they add loft at the bottom. Putts come up short because they're adding loft to it. That had a lot of loft on it. Specifically, 10.5 degrees. What I can tell you is that's too much. Let me hit another putt that's gonna have less loft. We're gonna see how it rolls, and we're gonna talk about how you can actually implement that into your game and your putting motion. So here we go, and let's see what happens to the ball. Okay, that was less loft, and it definitely rolled better and rolled longer. That loft was 0.9 degrees. Even though the club was swinging at the same speed on both of those putts, that ball, because the delivery loft was better, rolled out more. The first thing I want you to learn here is you've got to be consistent with your delivery loft. Now the ranges can vary a little bit. I generally like 2-3 degrees, somewhere in that vicinity, give or take a little bit, but it can be based on the instructor. But you've got to deliver the right amount of loft, and more importantly, you got to be consistent with it. So how can we be consistent? You can make sure that your hands are equal to the ball or slightly in front at setup. Now I've got the G-Track here, and one of the things I really like about the G-Track is the bend in the shaft. Now there are other putters that have this also, but this bend in the shaft right here basically moves your hands slightly in front. Okay, some putter shafts are just perfectly straight up and down. Nothing wrong with those, but the built-in twist of the shaft, the bend of the shaft, instinctively moves your hands a little bit forward. So this would be bad, this would be good. So the first thing is to take a look at your putter and see what the shaft bend is at the bottom. If it doesn't have that bend, here's the other thing that you can do. You can take the butt end of the putter and move it slightly forward this way. Okay, so let me go ahead and hit another putt here. I'm gonna make a conscious effort to move this a little bit forward. Let's roll it. Okay, pulled it just a tad. That loft was a little bit more, around 2.6, which actually I think is pretty good. Club head speed was almost identical. I think that was a pretty good putt. That would be tip number one, is make sure that your hands are equal with the ball or slightly in front of them, and then also check out putter shaft, does it have any bend? Now here's the other tip that you can do. We're seeing this very popular these days, the longer putters, right? Not only are the putters a little bit longer, okay, but the grips are longer. And the nice thing about a longer grip is you can change your hand placement on it. So if I have a student who's really struggling with delivering the right loft, and more importantly, being consistent with that, I'll have them get set up, take their lead arm or their lead hand, and move it down the club shaft and have it match up with their form. Everybody see how I'm doing that? If this angle right here, this is the heart, this is the golden nugget, so pay attention right here. If this stays the same, the loft of the putter is gonna stay the same. If this backs up, the loft changes. Let's just hit a putt to experiment, all right? So here we go. So the beauty of the foresight is I can actually track this. So what I'm gonna do on the first one is I'm going to actually back this up, and then I'll tell you what the loft of the putter was at impact. So here we go, I'm setting in this way. I've exaggerated that back. I could tell I hit it off the toe. Let's see what the 14.5 degrees of loft. Not good. Even though the putt turned out okay, not very good. Let's do the other one. Here we go. Same setup, but this time I'm gonna make a conscious effort to keep the relationship between the G-Track right here, the butt end, and my forearm the same. Here we go. Okay, I wasn't very solid in all honesty. I could tell I hit a little bit off the toe. Okay, but the loft, 2.2, which I think is pretty close to perfect, really. Let's tie this together here now. So now that I'm set in there, I've got my hands a little bit in front, but this tip of sliding the hands down, see how it's in line with my forearm, then I'm gonna take my trail hand and just kind of slide it in here. Boom, like that. And you're seeing a lot of tour pros putt like this right now. Now, why they're doing that, can't speak to every single one of them, but my guess is this is probably part of it. So here we go, got that lined up. I'm just gonna rock the shoulders. Really good distance control right there. Let's see the delivery loft on that one, 2.9. Perfect. So now that you know what delivery loft is and how important it is to be consistent, check out my 3T putting system that can simplify your putting motion.